and welcome to Tikiman of the Viking podcast. And he is Tikiman.
I am H.B. Burlow, the author of the historical crime fiction series, The Wichita Chronicles, with the most recently released The End of the Treachery, Volume 2. Across or next to me is the Viking.
I am William Bryan Johnson, writer of Hell to Pay, The Dark Cry of Aristid, and soon to be released, Middle-Aged Man in a Trash Can.
Which we'll discuss in detail and depth more in another episode. We've got a new concept.
We call it the round table.
The round table, but it's more rectangular. We're not into geometry, so we're not going to discuss that. We decided to invite back some of our old friends, folks we interviewed from last season or last year?
We're going to call it last season.
We're going to call it last season and just have it as an open discussion. And the discussion day is going to be on social media. But let's introduce our panelists. We have Bonnie Tharp, a lifetime resident of Kansas. Bonnie Tharp graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, Women and Minority Studies, and Fine Arts. She's published 3 books in the women's fiction genre and 4 romantic suspense novels, and has another in the works. She's received local, state, and national awards for her novels, short stories, children's picture books, and playwriting. Bonnie has been married forever to a great guy. They have 1 amazing son, 2 grown grandsons, and a spoiled, rotten canine.
Sitting immediately to her left is April Pameicky. Mother of 2, shares her time in her high school English classroom and the creative community of artists and writers in Kansas. She launched the Wichita Broadside Project in 2017, currently serves as editor of Voices of Kansas, a regional anthology of work for school-age children across the state of Kansas.
And finally, we have DeBoard.
Never finally.
No. He's just a simple horror writer living in the bleak state of Kansas. Recently has grown wary of the limitations of his craft when it comes to scares. Sure, he has terrified many, thanks to having 4 published books to his name, as well as being featured in dozens of horror anthologies. But the fear from those stories wears off. He wishes to create something so horrific that it lingers in the reader's mind for years to come. Creating something of such unfathomable terror would cement him in the brains of those who purchase his books. Plus, it would be like he left a piece of himself in each copy of his work. A small bit of himself that can grow and watch, waiting for the right time to deliver a final fright. These are our panelists for today, and our dear friends, too. Thank you all for joining us. We're discussing social media and all the various kinds of social media. I guess the first question to ask is, why should writers or creatives of any sort use social media? What's the point?
Oh, because nobody knows who we are.
Yep, visibility.
Yeah.
Visibility.
Is it primarily for visibility?
Well, okay. I'm the oldster here.
Okay.
I use social media to keep track of things, people, family, but also to say, hello, I'm not dead yet. And
Right.
I have books. So
That about sums it up, I feel like. Well, and also just staying in touch with all your writing friends, that's so important. You never know what's going to come up, like opportunity-wise, like, oh, there's this event. And there's so many interesting events going on, you know. If you broaden your horizon to, like, say, we're in the United States and it's a national market as opposed to just looking around local. And, of course, you probably aren't informed about what's going on in, say, Minnesota if you live in Texas. However, your writing bud up there will, and they'll make a post about it, and then, hey, sounds like a good opportunity. So that's another way to keep at it, too.
April, what do you do for social?
Well, I think it's important that if you develop a following that they feel like they're getting to know you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been on Instagram for a while, but I will be the first to tell you that I get ramped up when a project's going and when I'm kind of documenting a project and when maybe something's going to be released. And then I tend to back off because I can get lost watching cat videos and like stupid stuff. And I did move from Twitter. So I had been a Twitter user, and that was the writing world to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I haven't really replaced it in a way that is satisfactory yet.
That's fair.
Well, the question is there a need to replace it, or do you just move on to, I mean, there are so many different venues. Mm-hmm. Do you replace it, or just move on to one of the other ones?
I think with Twitter, there was an extremely strong writer's presence because there were tons of people that I met through Twitter doing writer projects or publicity things that I've really, after leaving Twitter, it kind of dropped off. Now I jumped over to Blue Sky,
Same
and
here.
there are things that you can run. There are programs that you can run that'll look up all your old Twitter users and find them if they're on Blue Sky, which I probably need to run that again since I was kind of an early adopter.
It's also called Facebook because everybody on Facebook's going, I'm over on Blue Sky, so you got that as well too.
Yeah, I think for Twitter in particular, like you could even young agents that were looking for new clients would do these pitches and be like, hey,
Pitch events, yeah.
here come pitch to me. You've got a minute to make a video or to send me a brief abstract or description. Like it felt like the world was a little smaller, even though Twitter was huge.
Right.
You could connect to people.
Yeah.
That's interesting that they're the publishers, the agents, the editors drawing in writers as opposed to writers going, hey, I'm still here.
Right.
Yeah,
Well-
I did never have that experience. Damn.
And-
That's too bad.
And they did have a pitch session recently on Blue Sky. I forgot what it was called, but yeah, you just sort of, it was a big day. Everyone used those hashtags. However many of them there were, I saw people who had like 40 on Blue Sky, and I went, I don't understand, because some were just, Q or T or R, and I went, what could that possibly mean? But, they would pitch their work, whatever book they're working on, and a little short description of it. Most of them used what's called mood boards, where they had a bunch of photos that kind of gives you the feel of what the book's about. And I'm not smart enough to know how to put that image together, so I just pitched it as is, but it's a nice way to get it out there.
I actually did Middle-Aged Man with a Trash Can. Part of it was memory notes.
Oh, there you go.
And, a cosmic trash can and a cosmic taco truck and, things that went along. And it was cool because you could talk to the people before the event and they would actually critique what you were doing. And you kind of told them, hey, this is what I'm going for. Oh, yeah, you nailed it. Or, hey, see if you can find something like this that'll work.
You talk about those kind of boards. I started a board on Pinterest, a writer's board. It was just for my own purposes, for inspiration. I found something, posted, go through the board, and I'm like, okay, this is why I'm writing this kind of stuff. This is cool. But if anybody else happens to come across that board, because it is public, they'll go, oh, he's an interesting guy. Maybe look up the books based upon the photos that I'm saving.
Right.
But you, April, brought up a great point about using social media to get people to know you. I mean, for me, one thing that I do when I'm not posting about writing is I post photos of the food that I just made.
And they are some delicious
Thanks.
foods.
Thanks.
And I'm really sorry that in advance of this, I didn't bring something in.
Yeah,
My
there's
phone.
nothing here.
Yes.
I have water.
Yeah.
Yes.
you
Yeah.
Thank
Dropped
you.
the ball on that. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time. Yeah.
I
There's
don't know
only,
if I'll be back if I don't get any latkes or anything, so.
well, we'll see about some bagels. We'll think about
Ooh,
some
there we go.
sausages. Will require a cooler. We'll talk about food at some other time, folks. Thank you.
Are
But
you,
yeah,
when we talk social media, though, are we talking about blogging or writing or Substack or Reddit? Are we just talking about the big meta universe, the
It all
Twitterverse?
fits because Substack I know is huge, and
What
I'm
is
hearing
Substack?
it's. I'm gonna say it's like Reddit, and then your next question's gonna be, well, what's Reddit?
Well, I've heard Reddit, but
Okay.
I haven't heard of Substack.
I think Substack, a really great way to put it is it's a way of creating your own newspaper or your own newsletter or your own work. So there are folks that have public levels that are open and readable, and then they have a paid level. And actually, I know a number of writers that is an income stream for them is a Substack subscription.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done it because
Same here, so.
what am I going to write about that people are going to pay for? Like I
Yeah.
don't.
That, I feel in that same boat. Like, I've
Yeah.
always thought about, what if I did Patreon? And then I'm like, well, I'd have to write stuff.
Yeah.
So
yes.
the interesting thing is, though, I got in a conversation with a GoFundMe guy. And he does a local comic book, and he gets supporters for that comic book enough
Yes.
to do the initial run.
Oh, what's his
That's
name?
nice.
Ace Nichols. He
Ace Nichols. Okay.
he's been at some of the Comic Cons.
Okay.
And he does the Berserker Con Magnus. and I'm going to have to go back if I said the wrong name because I meet with him once a month. He's going to kick my ass. But
Edit that out.
yeah. But he was telling me that they do, whenever they have a new issue coming out, they'll run a GoFundMe and it will help pay for it. And he does everything from, hey, you want 10 issues, you want 20 issues.
Right.
Hey, we'll give you original artwork. The artist will draw you doing something with Magnus or, all the different things that can go on with that. It's kind of a cool idea.
Okay, let's talk about the notion. We got COVID, we got people doing a lot of social media because we're stuck at home. Right, fine. And now, just like companies want workers to come back to work and not be remote,
Right.
how much is there a balance between social media use, which is important, and getting out to local authors day or going to a writers conference or going to the writing group that you guys go to as teachers? Where has face-to-face fallen, or is it still important?
I think it's still important, and I think it's starting to come back as people are getting away from COVID. But I think, the thing that saddens me is there's so much that we could have reinvented, and we really didn't reinvent anything. We just went right back to the norm.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that. I will say, in some respects, resources for writers have become a lot more accessible. Not that I could afford it, but like Natalie Goldberg has an online class now, and if I could afford it, I would do it. Whereas that is more accessible than, say, taking a 2-week vacation to go stay at a writer's retreat or do
Right.
something like
Right.
that. Like it's just there are more accessible things.
And
it's-
a lot of times you can get that content after the event, so you can go back and rewatch
Right.
it and pay attention to it more.
Even the Kansas Authors Club, the October conference, they put a lot of their presenters. They started to put them online, so that after the conference was over, if you couldn't make it, you could access some of the presentations, and I appreciated that. But I think there's networking that's good for you professionally, and then there's like time suckage.
Yeah.
And at first it's like really hard to tell. Is this going to benefit me? Is this not? I talked to some folks who are just overwhelmed with the choices. There's just too many choices, and I'm like, choose one and focus on one, and don't feel like you have to be the master of all of these different platforms. And if you're a local person who wants to make local events, I hate to say it, but right now there's no escaping Facebook.
Right.
I've tried to escape it. And you can't. If you're going to put on a local event, you have to be on Facebook.
Yeah. Or if you're going to attend one, it's really Facebook's the key to finding it.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think
last year we had the good fortune of presenting at OWFI, Oklahoma Writers Federation, Inc. It was a great opportunity for Tikiman the Viking, but also for Brian and HB. And as it turns out, we wind up doing interviews for the podcast. We wound up, Brian pitches. Well, Middle-Aged Man and Trash Can was all came about because he's at OWFI pitching to somebody.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's where the face-to-face. Now, granted, that Twitter thing that you were talking about where, agents are reaching out, go ahead and pitch to me, or Blue Sky, that's all well and good, but when you're in front of somebody and you can emote, not just give them your elevator pitch of 30 seconds, but emote, I mean, I can imagine Radar pitching in front of me or to me if, and like, this dude's intense. And that sense of who the person is, because I think publishers want to know who the person is behind the writer.
Right.
Hey, is this person going to promote their
Right.
work? And you can get that sense greater in person. So I still, local authors day or writers conference, I still advocate, and I still want to be in front of people as much as I can afford to, time and money wise.
And I think some of it too is just like your mindset, because I feel like a lot of people show up to those conferences, those conventions and stuff, and they're like, especially if it's like, oh, we're selling books and stuff, and they show up and go, I can't wait to sell, 50 copies. That's what I'm going for. I'm going to make back all the money I spent on this table or what have you. And I feel like if you go in expecting to make huge sales, you'll be disappointed, because I feel like that's not what should be the goal. One, networking, like HP just said,
Number one.
Yeah.
networking is fantastic. I was at Scares That Care, which is an event, writer event, mostly horror writers, but anyone can sign up for it. And just to meet all the incredible people in the horror genre and connect and network with them was worth it by far.
Where was that at?
I was in St. Louis.
Okay.
So
The Care. It's a great name.
Scares
Scares
the
the
Care.
Care.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and it's a great thing because they come together, and they normally do an event in Williamsburg, Virginia. They wanted to branch out, but what they do is they at the events they'll have like auctions and charity events and stuff. And what they do is they take the money and they raise it up, and each year they give $10,000 apiece to 3 people that are in need of it. I think it's like someone who's a cancer survivor. A child who has like some kind of disability, and I forget what the third thing is. But so it's also for a good cause too. But yeah, but that networking is incredible. And then like HB talked about that face-to-face connection when people walk by your booth and being able to talk to them about your books, give them the pitch. You instead of I bought a book, cool. You can actually get someone who's a fan of you by interacting with them in person, and I feel like that's so much more important because that's someone who's going to go back to your books, years down the road. There's people I've met at little conventions that I've done who still buy my books, and I
There you go.
well, it might be a waste of your money, but I appreciate the support. So,
But you're getting people to return.
Yes.
The biggest decisions that I have to make in going down to OWFI are what shirts to bring. No, I'm dead serious. It's 12. I've been going down there since 2012, and I've only missed twice. Once for COVID, and once because my wife and I were looking home buying and all that. And I'm picking the shirt that I'm wearing on Thursday when I go down. What I'm wearing for the Friday session. What I'm wearing for Friday night. No, because it's Tikiman. Okay, and we're promoting the platform of Tikiman. Now it's Tikiman the Viking.
Well, the Vikings platform is much more simple.
Yes, he wears platform shoes. And this year OWFI's theme relates to crime fiction. And I've got the London Fog overcoat and I've got the black fedora. So we're going to switch it up. And one night it may not be Tiki Man, but it'll be the other HB Humphrey Bogart.
Which it's also interesting because the keynote speaker is a paranormal noir writer.
Right.
So I mean, Jim Butcher's coming and it's going to be amazing.
Oh my God, I love Jim Butcher.
I do too.
So
this
maybe
will be
we'll
the
see
second
you all
time I get
then.
to meet him.
Where?
OWFI, yeah.
When?
Which we love promoting OWFI
May. It's
because
always
of
in May,
everything.
right?
Yeah, May
It is.
2nd to 4th.
I think
It's
so.
always the first weekend in May. God, I love Jim Butcher.
Oh, I do too.
Nobody
I've
hears
read
this.
everything.
Hello, Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher. Left the Dresden Files. I'm sorry.
Yes, I loved them all.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pull out and say what I hear you guys saying is that you've kind of figured out where your audiences are, and I think that
I have no idea. I am still trying to search
I was going
my
to say,
audience.
I'm sure we're still fumbling around.
I'm-
with that.
no, and I am too, but I do think that you have a good time with the shirts, and people you'll stand out to people because you have the shirts on. My point is that a lot of writers they get their first book done. And they really do too much in too many different directions, right? Because they're not really thinking about who their audience is. And showing up at, say, conventions or book rooms and having a table with your book, that's all well and good because you get to meet other writers. But that you're not always going to connect with your audience that way. There was a recent book release, and I thought her book release party was genius because she had a book release party at a zoo. Right, and because the book was about, I'm not advertising for her, but there was a rhinoceros in the book. You'll know who I'm talking about if you're local. And she did and she sold out tickets for that book release party.
Wow.
And then sold out books at
That's awesome.
that book release. And so I thought, that is genius. You created some local hype. You're on social media, and then you did this special event. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I know you've had some success connecting with women's book clubs who want to read your book. I'm talking to Bonnie about that they have enjoyed reading about feisty family values together with other women. And so you've had some success with that. And so I think that, I'm thinking, okay, who's your ideal reader and how do you go find them?
Well, and I think you've had pretty good luck at the cons, haven't you?
A little bit of good look at the cons, just a few people who have really, again, become fans. For me, though, TikTok has been the spot for me. I have readers over in the UK now, which is just
That's
wild.
right.
It is wild to see that. But yeah, they're just book talk has been such a big lift for me. Every once in a while, someone in Canada will pick up a book, or the UK. I'm still trying to get into the Francophone. Really, the Francophone speaking markets, but yeah, TikTok has been such an incredible platform, and I feel like April's hit the nail on the head. Find the one area that really speaks to you. You don't have to try all of them. Maybe do some light work on each social media platform and find the one where you can really hit the ground running and really get the message out. And that's how I do it on TikTok. Which again, I to piggyback off of what HB said about know your brand. Set it up.
Right.
I talk about horror movies. That's what I do on TikTok.
Yes.
So I do that, and
Okay, what's your handle so that people can follow you?
Radar DeBoard on that, and Instagram, and Blue Sky. So I do.
And as what we typically do for the podcast, Brian will post links for all of our guests today to make sure that you can find them and follow them. Bonnie, in terms of what April alluded to with the women's clubs, was that just a natural, obvious choice based upon your studies, or did that pop in your mind as a good idea? Let's try this.
Yes and no. I got lucky. A lot of what we do, if we're in the right place at the right time.
Bingo.
Right.
And I think that's so much of it.
Yeah.
And the
Luck.
face-to-face is so critical because, feisty family values. What does that mean?
Right. If I
and-
saw that on Facebook, I'd go, huh?
Yeah,
But-
but what does that mean? And then, but when I get a chance to chat with them. I mean, because face it, we all have feisty families, and they're all messy and all of that good stuff. But relating to people, our readers, and touching a chord with them is so important, and that's hard to do on social media. That is hard to do.
I think so much of it is fire and forget on social media, and people tend
I'm always
to
afraid
see
to
it.
miss the mark.
Yeah, and that's okay because then you can fire again.
Right.
April, thank you for joining us.
Yes, I'm sorry I have to run. Love you guys. We should chat.
Good
another
to see you
time.
again.
We will.
Poetry online.
Anything you
Sings.
want to pump before you go?
No. I
She said
I-
all she needed to.
I have my latest manuscript out, and I'm waiting on the rejections.
Oh,
you know
good
how
luck.
that is.
Good luck.
I've
Good
gotten
luck.
good feedback from one local Kansas press, and it's on hold right now with them.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
And so my fingers are crossed that they option it, but I won't know for sure until May.
Oh wow! Oh, that's killer.
I hate
It's so
Yes, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm working on other things. I'm trying to blog about AI in the classroom, and
And you're also going to be a teacher again for Harvester Arts Artists Inc. series.
yes,
So-
I'm a peer facilitator for Artist Inc. The deadline of which for application this year is tomorrow,
Oh,
May the
okay.
27th. But yes, I am doing that again because nothing lifts like other artists.
And I am also a alumni of Artists Inc. and it is very well worth it. So.
Yeah, it's a great program. All right, you guys.
Later.
And we're going to take a break there. Stay tuned for part 2. Tikiman and the Viking podcast brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.